The MLB offseason is officially in full swing, and the Philadelphia Phillies are beginning to evaluate the next steps for the organization. Well, in order to add some new talent, they may have to clear out some previous faces, and there's some intriguing reports surrounding who exactly this might be. So to dive right into the latest here, we have from Bob Nightingale here saying, quote, if someone needs a slugger like Nick Castellanos or outfield help in Brandon Marsh or third baseman Alec Boehm, the Phillies are listening. So Luke, we got on here following the season, pretty rage-infused and fired up that there need to be some massive changes from these teams. And these were a couple of names that we discussed, most notably Alec Boehm. I would say I was on the forefront of this guy might not be in the cards, that being more of a read from obviously him being benched for a game and kind of the way that I think the personality or outburst has worn on the team a little bit. So I want to throw it to you here is, out of these three names, who do you think is the most likely and least likely to get back? And what's kind of your read on that quote there?
Yeah, so I'd be shocked if it's Nick Castellanos.
Okay.
Unless it's my only situation of Castellanos leaving is if we got Soto. I think if they knew they were going to get Soto, I think they could look at it, maybe get off the 20 million a year for Castellanos, have Soto and Wright. That's really the only situation where I see Castellanos leaving. Everybody else that they could potentially sign to play the outfield does sort of play left field. So I don't buy the Castellanos thing. I would probably say I don't. It's hard. I think Marsh and Bohm are kind of even for me. Like
Really?
I don't really think there's one that's more likely or less likely. I would probably maybe lean Bohm.
Yeah.
I think they can get more out of Bohm sort of in the market than they would Marsh. But really, that article from Nightingale, there were a few good sort of quotes in there. He said, the Phillies can't believe they don't have a ring in the Bryce Harper era, and after knocking on the door the past few years, they are willing to make a huge move to change their fate. Dombrowski has not internally discussed pursuing Soto with his staff, but is aware that they need to shake up their lineup. Simply, scouts say they're just too easy to pitch to come crunch time with their big swingers and contact challenged hitters. Yes. Sorry. Once again, that quote, if somebody needs a slugger like Castellanos, Marsh, Bohm, the Phillies are listening. And this was the big one for me. He said, but do not believe for a second the Phillies won't keep spending. And that's even if it means beyond the third luxury tax threshold of $281 million. For the right player, I have a high degree of confidence that Dave and I would go over the third limit, and that was from John Middleton.
Wow.
So that
from the
screams to
source.
me like they're willing to spend the money, they're willing to do it. How much over that, right? I mean that third tax, you gotta give back some good money. So is it worth it? I think a World Series trophy is damn worth it. I think you can earn that money back real quick in ticket sales next year. But if they can get Juan Soto, they just have to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, no arguments from me there. And there's a couple points that I would dig in on here. For starters, there was kind of this like positive perception, and I should have pulled up a couple of the articles here immediately following the season about this like strong trade market for Brandon Marsh, which felt a little strange to me at the time, and to be honest, still kind of does. Now, granted, I think Marsh has been better than expectations since he came to Philadelphia. The bat absolutely has, but I don't get the sense that he's kind of this desired like player across the league. What do you kind of feel is like the trade market for Marsh? And is that a guy that you think the Phillies could view as the return could be better than what his production is?
Yeah, if you look at Marsh, right, he didn't have the best year, but at the same time, he's 26 years old. He plays a really good left field.
Mm-hmm.
He had a 792 OPS this year against righties. I don't think any team's looking at Brandon Marsh to start every day in their lineup. I think Brandon Marsh could start for a lot of teams in this league, but I think people look at him as a pretty valuable piece. I mean, he is still fairly young, right, compared to, I would say, the average age of a lot of these teams today. And I think they could look at him as a guy that could really sort of just hit against righties. I think if he got into a good situation, I think he could eventually hit left-handed pitching, and I think he could play every day. I just don't think that's where the Phillies are at. I don't think they have time right now really to throw him in against left-handed pitching when they're trying to win a World Series. So I think as far as Marsh, I think there is some value there. I think there's values on
Each of these.
both of these options
Yeah.
for the Phillies next year in center field. I think there's a lot of value for Rojas. I mean, he's 24.
I think 22. I was gonna say younger
Whatever,
than
yeah,
24.
whatever. He's young.
Yeah.
I believe he's 24. Yeah, so he's
Okay.
24. He wouldn't turn 25 until August. He's a young player. The glove is there.
Yeah.
The bat isn't. But I think, I mean, there's not many good hitting center fielders in baseball. It's just I believe the center field position had the lowest OPS in the entire league last year. It's not a hitting position, right? If you have 6 to 7 really good hitters in your lineup, you don't need your center fielder to have an 850 OPS. So I think Rojas's glove has some big value. I don't think both of those guys will be in the everyday lineup next year. I think they could both still be on the team. I think if the Phillies go out and they keep Castellanos and just say, like, if they don't get Soto, if they went out and they got a guy like Anthony Santander, like a Teoscar Hernandez, and had them in left field, I think you can get away with having a Marsh Rojas thing in center. You don't need a power hitting 25 homer center fielder in your lineup.
Yeah, no, I do think that is fair. And I do want to note that kind of the ball has already been in motion. I know these are a little bit minor deals here, but we do have the Phillies already making some moves. That right-handed pitcher Devin Sweat was acquired from the Detroit Tigers in exchange for cash considerations. Right-handed pitcher John McMillan was claimed off waivers, and right-handed pitcher Alan Rangel, I believe is what it is. So any of these names jumping out to you, Luke? I did want to make sure we mentioned them.
Yeah, I would say maybe Sweet. I don't really know his pronunciation. But he had a fairly good year last year in the minors. He had an ERA under 4 with 111 strikeouts. I believe he started 4 games, mostly out of the bullpen. But he is only 28. And then as far as McMillan, 26, he made 14 appearances over the last 2 seasons with the Royals and Marlins. He had a pretty low ERA, was under 2. So there may be something there. I would say, as far as Sweet, I would think that screams to me like a project.
Okay.
That screams like a guy that they could mess around with Cotham there. I think this could be a guy that could hang out in the minors, sort of maybe add a new pitch, maybe get some things rolling again, and maybe see what you have there. I don't think there's no bad trades for cash.
Sure.
And so I think that could maybe be an option there. But I mean, nothing really that's really like jumping off the page.
Okay, fair enough. And I did also want to add this report here from Matt Gelb saying that
Nice.
rebuilding the bullpen is a priority. The Phillies will seek at least 2 late-inning relievers to fortify a group that returns Matt Strahm, Orion Kirkring, and Jose Alvarado. Now, obviously, the 2 pressing issues, Jeff Hoffman and our boy, the midseason train, Carlos Estevez, each in free agency here. So what's your read on how the bullpen's going to shake out this offseason?
Yeah, so I think they're going to get, I would say, 2 good arms. I would love Tanner Scott. That would be a free agent signing. As far as a trade, I think an obvious one could be Devin Williams. I think Ryan Helsley could also be the other one. Those are kind of the 2, I would say, bigger trades as far as the bullpen. I think either of those guys could definitely be on the market. For a Brewers team that they have some rising guys in the bullpen, and the Brewers have shown that they can trade away bullpen guys and find more, aka Josh Hader. I was shocked when they sort of got rid of Hader. I didn't think it was a great move, but I feel like they honestly ended up winning the trade. They didn't really take a step back in the bullpen. So if a Devin Williams was on the board, I think you definitely have to check in. Him, Helsley. But as far as sort of free agents, I mean, I would love Hoffman back. I would say Hoffman's probably more likely to come back than Estevez. But as far as the free agents, I would say Hoffman.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, I would love Tanner Scott.
Yeah, big fan of Tanner Scott myself.
Yeah.
So,
Lefty. Would love another dominant lefty.
yeah, absolutely there. So it does feel like the wheels are starting to spin in motion for this Phillies offseason here. Still a lot more questions than answers, and I do think there's some notable dominoes that need to fall before the things falling into place. But me and Luke are going to be on top of things from start to finish this offseason and want each and every one of you along for the ride as well. So make sure you're smashing that subscribe button if you have not already. Drop a like on this video and any comments that you have below. If it came down to those three names that we first brought up with Brandon Marsh, Alec Boehm, and Nick Castellanos there, let it rip in the comments. Which of those would you not want to see in the red pinstripes next year if you had to make the choice? So drop those comments below. Make sure to subscribe, and we'll be back talking to you next time. Peace.